Today's episode with Kristin and Jocelyn, I think is a really good one. We get to talk about parenting teenagers a lot, about parenting in the pandemic, about mine still having not listened to their episode in their resilience-based parenting series, about needs, about your rights, your responsibilities, and your privileges as a person in this household and what they are. I think I learned a lot in this episode, particularly that I may have been relaxing my boundaries to the point where my kids may be running all over me a little bit. So I'm going to start trying to reel some boundaries back in, and I really appreciate their advice and insight always. If you're interested in their parenting series, it's at MacDermottMethod.com/WOTP. And I don't know if there's a scholarship still available, but I did put 2 Wife of the Party scholarships on their website. So check it out. It is a parenting series that's a 10-minute audio lesson once a week with a 10-minute exercise and then a self-care little episode that comes on Sundays. They come out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Super small bites, easy to chew. I love this parenting series. I've learned about myself, my marriage, my relationships, my friendships, and my relationships with my kids. I think this is an amazing parenting series. We don't really talk about this in this episode, but I'm so excited about the content that they've presented. It's just so great. So if you're interested, check it out. Again, MacDermottMethod.com/WOTP. WOTP. If you haven't, I didn't wear them. If you haven't checked out the Machine and the Mechanic house shoes, please do so at freewaters.com. They make these house shoes that we bought last year, and they are my most favorite house shoes. They have an arch support. They have a sole on them, so you can walk your dogs in them or take out the trash, and they're really warm and very comfortable. And they were kind enough this holiday season to make a special edition set of the Machine and the Mechanic. And the insole of the Machine has Bert riding a surfboard in a Speedo. And the insole of the Mechanic has my logo, which is me in tree pose, juggling all the things that I juggle. You've probably seen it if you've been to my website or seen it by video clips. But they're awesome shoes. And, Bert and I we don't really talk about things that we don't really, really like. So I bought these shoes last year for everybody for Christmas, and I'm buying them again this year for everybody for Christmas because they are just the best house shoes ever. They upgraded last year's version to make the Machine and the Mechanic. So again, go to freewaters.com if you are interested in buying Machine and Mechanic house shoes. They're awesome. Thank you so much for coming back every week. Thank you for listening to my little podcast that I love so much and enjoy, and I've learned so much through. I appreciate all the emails. I read every single one of them. I don't always get to respond to them, but I read every single one of them. So thank you very much for emailing me. And I hope you enjoy this episode with Kristin and Jocelyn. You look so pretty in your rust color.
Oh, thank you.
I like your Guns N' Roses t-shirt.
Oh,
let's see. Oh, nice.
Okay. I literally you can't tell, just finished Drop Squad. Literally just now. So I'm sweaty. I'm gross. I put some.
What is it called?
Drop Squad, baby.
What is that?
That's my workout team.
Well, that's so cool.
Yes, we named ourselves Drop Squad because I dropped 20 pounds in like 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
So we're Drop Squad.
That's
so
impressive.
We Drop Squad Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I was like, yes, I can Drop Squad and then podcast right away. So I don't look my usual beautiful self.
You look adorable.
Well, except for my skunk. You see my skunk?
Oh yeah, don't look at me either. I have the same thing.
Yeah.
But I just have so many highlights now, so you can't. It's harder to see.
I wish I looked good as a blonde. I don't look good as a blonde. Washes me out, and I have to wear makeup. And I just choose to get my hair done every 4 weeks as opposed to wear makeup every day. So I can't do blonde. I've tried, actually.
You have?
Yes, I have. Yeah. Every time I look like The Walking Dead. Like every tone, I've had it like brunette with blonde highlights. I've had it, blonde and everything in between. It just doesn't work. Red works for me, though. I can do red.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, red I can do. Blonde, no bueno. How are
Blonde
you?
just seems hard. Like I feel like it would just be hard to be blonde.
Why?
A lot of maintenance.
I think it's more maintenance to be brunette when you're gray.
Definitely. That's the only reason I did this.
Right.
I used to be really dark-headed. I was born dark-headed. But then it's like every 3 weeks you have to dye your stupid gray. It's just annoying.
Oh, I
This is
see.
about
Yeah.
4 weeks. You see? I don't know if you can really see my skunk, but it's about 4 weeks growth. And I should have gotten it done last week.
So I'm going to tell you guys that I went over to just dyeing my hair on my own. I just buy it from the grocery store and I buy the cheap stuff and I do it whenever I want and I will never go back.
Yeah?
Because it's cheap. You get it done whenever you need it. It doesn't take much time. It took a little while to like figure out what color I liked.
And your hair has dimensional color to it too. It's not just one flat color.
I mean, listen, I'm killing it with the at-home thing, although I haven't done it in a while, but.
Well, there's your side hustle, right? Yeah. Everybody needs a good side hustle. You can just start dyeing hair out of your garage.
Dyeing people's hair.
You get on the treadmill, play with a kitten.
No
Wait,
one
Leanne,
wants me to do that.
You've changed your background. You decided to just go with the burnt background.
Oh, you love that? It was not up to me. Sexy man. So I wish you could see. I should pick up the computer and show you the reverse of this room. This room is a disaster. And Bert just got home. He just got home like 4 days ago. And where I usually podcast in this room is undoable. Like it would take me 25 minutes to get it set up. So this is where he podcasts because of this lovely item.
Oh, because he likes to show himself that way. That's always his background.
What do you think?
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me.
Yes. So I walked in this morning before Drop Squad and went, oh, forget it. He's just going to be on the podcast today like this because I can't deal with. He's got a backpack. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 half full beverages in glasses, 2 candles, some bubble wrap, a book, some packaging, looks like a tripod. There's a statue of a bull, which is super normal, I guess, all on this one table. And that's just what I can see from here. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not one that can just take that pile and put the pile over here. I need to like put the pile up. Like if you're going to touch it, you may as well put it up. But I get so resentful that I have to put up that pile that I just won't do it. I'm like, it's not my pile. Screw it.
That makes sense.
So,
Well, the background is good.
Yeah, it's sexy.
And my children are here and I've told them to go do their thing, but I guarantee they're going to make an appearance and I'm going to be happy to point the background out when
I'll
they
just keep my head here. But,
that makes it even funnier.
maybe I'll go up like this and go, so anyway. Well,
they've met Bert, so I think
I go like this,
makes
maybe?
sense to them.
Should I cover it in a sheet? A bandana?
Oh, Leanne,
no, it's
no.
funny.
Like this?
No. I have to tell you. So I remember Kristin sent me once some like funny video. I think it was a dog and there was a person, talking for the dog. And Kristin was like, don't play this when your kids are around because it's not appropriate for kids. And I watched it and was like, hey, kids, come here. Look at
That's so true.
So
I
they
do that
don't
all
care.
the time. You know what? I get so many emails. So I wanted to bring my 8-year-old to Bert's show. Is that allowed? And I'm like, allowed or okay? I would never. He talks about blowjobs. Every other word is a blowjob joke. Why would you bring an 8-year-old? Like we started watching The Cabin with Isla. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the first episode, Joey Diaz starts talking about sex after you're married and how doesn't happen anymore. Like you want to spit on her feet and drag her by the hair around the back, just like what you used to do. And now you don't get anything. And Isla's like, oh my God. Oh my God. And it was like, fast forward. Because that's her Uncle Joey. She knows him as Uncle Joey. He comes to Easter and Christmas Eve and with his family and he doesn't talk like that in front of her. And I was like, people's kids are watching this and he's talking about like spitting on a woman's feet before he has sex with them. It's so confusing. Why people let their kids watch this stuff? But
I don't go that far.
So we were going to have a day drinking podcast today, and then everybody's day got slammed, and we got shoved down to like 9 a.m., which is not appropriate for day drinking. Or 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Guys.
Unless you're in St. Bart's or something, but like.
Right, a little too early. Here's my day drink. Ready?
I know. Here's my day drink.
So we'll save our fun combo. Not that we don't have fun combo. So I wanted to talk to you about, unless you had an agenda. Do you have an agenda?
No.
What do you do when your teenager has a friend that's not a good influence?
This is such a good question.
With parents who have a different value system.
Right.
What do you do?
I mean, you know me, I always bring it back to the same thing, but I feel like that's like one of those perfect examples where you're so much better off starting with a curiosity-based conversation than trying to shove your agenda down your kid's throat, because you know they're just going to resist. And we're all human beings. Like when someone's trying to control us, we resist, especially about our friends. So I always feel like just starting a conversation about that. Like, do you ever notice, some friends bring out different behavior than others? You feel safer around others. Like, what's your criteria for who you spend time with? And, because a lot of kids don't actually realize that who you spend time with literally shapes your life. Absolutely. And like, as you become an adult, your network, it's like not even just your social, just for friends and support, but then your network becomes so important to your career. So, I would start with, everyone's different, right? You have a really good relationship with your kids. So you guys already have a foundation for being able to have real conversations about things like that. For someone who's like never had a conversation like that with their kids, then you got to think like, well, where do you start? That's not going to just seem totally weird, but
yes, I have done that. I have had conversations with my teenager about curious conversations and also direct conversations like, this is our value system. This seems to be what's happening over there. They don't line up. So this makes it difficult for me to parent. So I have to trust you to an extent, but in a certain times I have to pull the mom card and go, nope, not happening. And you're just going to have to kind of trust me because I am an adult and you are still a child. And it's my job to know when it's too much is too much. But man, I tell you what, it's really hard to watch her walk out the door and go to a house where you know that things are not happening the way you want, and just trust that she's going to make a good decision and hope that it's okay. It's really difficult.
But the way you say that to me is where all the power in this conversation lies, is like, say that to her, that exact thing that you just said. It's like, because you are trusting her, you're letting her walk out that door, but you're doing it. So that way, when you do pull the mom card, you're going to be like, look, this is a two-way thing. Like, I'm trusting you. And then sometimes you have to trust me. We're just not always going to be on the same page.
Right.
And the thing that comes up for me is that I think it's really important to talk to her, like whatever your concerns are. I'm sure you have like in your head kind of a ticker tape of this might happen, this might happen, this might happen. Talk to her ahead of time about what her plan is for when that happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's just a good skill overall. Like there's going to be a day when our kids get offered drugs and they want to do it, or they get offered alcohol and they want to do it. And having that conversation ahead of time, like, what are you going to do when this situation is in your life? Then they can go through and go, oh, okay, here's my plan.
What are your things? What are your fears about what's going to happen?
Well, not to disclose too much, but there's just a lot of there's a young lady in the group that doesn't belong to this household that is using marijuana, and I know that she's bringing it with her, and I know that in this household, that's like they're teenagers, It's not coming from that household. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so I'm like, no, actually, that's illegal. at 16, that's illegal. I don't care who you are. If the ethics or the health concern of drugs is not an issue off the table, it's illegal. And I can't condone illegal activity. If it's stealing, if it's driving before you're old enough and have a license, if it's, fraud, whatever, I can't condone any illegal activity. That's kind of been the parenting hook I've hung my coat on, because, we've already had conversations about how you shouldn't do drugs until your brain is developed and your brain is growing, and how it's not good for you, and how maybe that's masking other problems if you're trying to escape. Why are you wanting to do drugs? Are you just doing it because other people are? What's the motivation? And we've had a myriad of conversations for many years about why not to do drugs and stuff. And I'm not saying that that's happened in my house, but I'm saying that there is a place where my kid goes all the time where that is kind of very relaxed. And that makes me nervous.
So, I had that in my own life too. And I think that's actually pretty common now, where we were super hard line in the sand about pot. And there are so many parents who I like, who are parents of my kids' friends, who just think it's perfectly fine.
Right.
So, we had to have super clear boundaries and consequences. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to do that, right? Because I am not a really controlling person, but if I say that I mean something, you have to mean it when you say it.
Right.
So, first of all, I've had this conversation so many times about what do you think that daughter, really, when she really digs into that conversation, does she want it? Where do you think she stands on wanting to do it, thinking you're too strict? Where do you think she is on it?
I think she thinks that other mom is super cool, and we are big fat sticks in the mud. That's my issue, is that she's going, but that mom is so cool and laid back. And I'm like, but that mom is breaking all our rules, and I don't really know how to deal with that, to separate, because part of me feels like it's not fair to separate her from her friends. She has genuine friendships that have nothing to do with this issue. They ride bikes, they have a great time, and they have really genuine, they go read tarot cards, and they go to crystal shops, and they thrift, and they have a full friendship. This is just one little bitty kernel. So I'm not saying that's the only thing that's going on in her group of friends. That's totally not true. But my radar goes up because they're always there.
Mm-hmm.
So why are they always there? There's lots of people in this. I've offered to host many times. They don't want to come here. So that makes me suspicious.
So what is your consequence if you bust her?
It's a good question. I don't know. Take her car. It's a good question.
It's a good question. Well, because you always think you have to think of a natural consequence that makes sense.
Right.
Right. I feel like we talked about this one other time on your show regarding my son, because I had just said, one of the main reasons that I don't like pot when you're that age, you can do whatever you want once you are not my charge, but it's because I feel like, you need to be paying attention. You need to be figuring out, how do you cope with things that get tough, not just checking out all the time. And, but also we were paying a lot of money to send that child to private school. And I just think if we're going to invest that much in your education, if you're smoking pot, you are not showing up 100%. You're just not, in my opinion. So that was the one for us, which was a huge one. But we were like, if you're just going to fight with us and tell us right now that you don't agree with this value, then let's just leave this school, save us a lot of money, and we're still not going to feel good about it. But it's the one thing that makes sense to us that you can understand, the trade-off that you're making. And by the way, public school is fantastic. It's great. It's just, this is the one thing I want you to be 100% there for it. Now, that's not the right thing for everyone, right? But it was terrifying for him.
Right.
He was you're going to take me away from all my friends or whatever. And then I had to mean it, which is horrible.
That's the other side of the coin.
You know, it was tested. Like you can't say it if you don't mean it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't mean that. So I'd have to find some other.
Right. So that's what you got to find. Like, what is it? I have a bunch of, a couple actually of dads who I thought was interesting. It was actually the fathers who were the hardcore ones in their families. These kids played soccer with one of my sons, and they decided to institute that we can drug test whenever we want. Now, they actually never intended to do it, but they basically said to their kids, I mean, we can do it. And if we think you need to, we will, but tell your friends that we're crazy. Tell your friends that we're so crazy that we drug test you and that there's a really huge consequence. And then it like sort of takes it off your kid because your kid thinks you have these crazy psycho parents who will do this horrible thing, like take you out of school. Right.
I can do that. That I could do. Mental torture, I can do that. No, but that was a real threat. I would totally follow through with that. I just have to figure out what the consequence would be if it were a positive test. Because it would not be pulling her out of private school. That doesn't work for us. But maybe it would be taking her car away because she drives herself everywhere now. Well, not that she's going.
But then are you going to get stuck driving her? Like that?
No, she goes nowhere. There's nowhere to go. She doesn't need to go to school.
But like, how does she get to, oh, you're right. She doesn't need to get to school right now.
Yeah. So she's driving to her friend's house, you know, or that's what she's doing. She's driving to see her friends. And she has several groups of friends. There's not like, you know.
And I mean, that's a really good one. If you're not responsible enough to follow a law that is going to get you in a lot of trouble if you break it, you are not responsible enough to drive a car. Like that's a good consequence. The other thing that comes up for me though on this is also like, I have conversations sometimes with my kids about the behavior that they can engage in that will make me trust them. So like this, my kids are younger, but like social media, I'm more relaxed than some people are about social media, but I've said to my daughter, who's the only one who really has access to it, the thing that will make me trust you with this is if you bring me things when they're upsetting. If you walk up to me and say, Mom, I saw this. Can we talk about it? That makes me feel better about allowing you to do this. Because I know that you're bringing things to me that are concerning. Right. So like, that's a conversation too. Like,
yeah,
the thing that will help me with this is if you disclose this to me.
Right. Teenagers are a dicey bag, man. I do think I have a really good relationship with both my teenagers. I think all things considered, we are a really strong unit as a family and doing a pretty good job. Not perfect by any stretch. Definitely made some mistakes. Would do some things differently, but I think I have a pretty strong relationship with my kids. And I am really, I read this book, Untangled, long time ago, when Georgia was like 13. And I thought, she's never going to do any of these. What a dumb thought. She is the secret keeper of the world. And that kid never kept secrets. And now she's like, she has such a need to be autonomous. And I want her to be autonomous. I'm fully for it. But there are some things that still need parenting. And buddy, she doesn't want it. She didn't want any. She had that car accident. Did I tell you about the car accident she had?
I saw it. She had a fender bender.
She had a fender bender.
Tell us about it.
But she called her aunt first. She didn't call one of her parents. And I was like, she actually lives 25 minutes away and knows nothing about your insurance. So, I mean, I'm happy. There's one side of the coin was, I'm really happy that she called her aunt. I love that they have a really connected, positive relationship. That I'm super grateful for. And we've always said to her, if you have something you feel like you can't talk to us about, she's a great resource because sometimes you're not going to want to talk to your parents about something. And that's okay. You just need to find another trusted adult and talk to an adult about certain things, like drugs or alcohol or sex or, I got in a car accident. But I was like, what else is she not calling me about when she needs help? Because she clearly needed help. That was, she was her first fender bender. And this guy got in her face and screamed at her and scared her really bad. So, so I was like, I was down the street. She was 2 blocks up from our house when this happened. And I was home. So why aren't you in those urgent moments reaching for me anymore?
Did you ask her?
Yeah. And she said,
what'd she say?
She said, I thought you were too busy. I was like, doing what? Mopping? Like, I don't have anything going on. What do you mean? Too busy? What? It's the pandemic. There's nothing too busy for you. I'd said that in the conversation. There's nothing too busy for you. Obviously, if you want me to make a batch of cookies, I may not be able to do it at that moment, but there's nothing too busy for you when you need me, like, especially like this. And she was like, well, I don't know. But part of me goes, that's not it.
What do you think it is?
I think that she is trying to really separate. And I think part of that is really healthy, that she's trying to just separate from us. What's that look for, Jocelyn?
Okay. I'm watching Daryl walking around the house. That is hilarious.
What is he doing?
Okay.
Does he look like this?
He's getting apples. No, he's getting apples that are in a bag. And he carried them into the kitchen really quietly. And then I muted it because there was a lot of crinkly noise. And then I was watching him carry them back to the table and then put them on the table the right way. And I was like, just put them down. Just put them down. So that's what that was. She just goes, what was that look about? He just flipped me off. That's hilarious.
That is pretty funny. So anyway, yeah, I think she's just really just wants to be a grown-up. You know, she wants to be a grown-up. And I think that's a very valid want when you're 16. She keeps telling me she wants to get a job. And I'm like, awesome. Maybe not in a pandemic. Like if it weren't a pandemic, I'd be all for it. Totally. But I don't know if I feel great about you working a job in this moment in our history in this world, you know? So I don't know. I think she's trying to just be her own person entirely, which I'm good with, but I don't know where to balance it. You know what I mean? That's the hard part is you go, well, where do I really assert myself and go, no, actually is going to be this way. And she's doing a lot of this. Yesterday, she slept over at a friend's house. Totally fine. They're in a bubble. We're in a bubble. Dad's in the movie industry. Everybody's tested every 2 days. So I'm like, well, if that's true, then you don't have COVID. Bert's been tested every couple days. We don't have it. So I'm comfortable with them commingling in their bubbles, right? And it was Halloween. So she slept over Halloween. And yesterday I called and said, so I want you to come home at like a decent hour today. I know you don't have a lot of homework, but like, 3:30 somewhere. But no, I didn't say that. I said somewhere between like after lunch and 6, somewhere in there. Like, and I don't mean 5:45. And she goes, but why? I said, because, you sometimes you will push yourself to the last minute. And then you need some recovery time before school starts. And you always will stay until the last minute. And then you end up having a very stressful, very anxiety-ridden week. So instead, I would love it if you'd come home and kind of, clean your room and get your ducks in a row and get ready and make sure you don't have any homework and just kind of relax and watch a movie with us and hang out. But why? Well, I think I just explained that pretty clearly. Well, can I stay then until 5:30? And I'm like, you know what, Georgia? I've given you what I needed you to do. And I gave you the freedom to make up the time sometime between noon and like 6 o'clock. And you just keep pushing and pushing. And she's like, okay, fine. I'll be home. She came home at 3:30, realized she had 3 major pieces of homework that she had forgotten, cleaned her room and did her homework. And we didn't see her the rest of the night. She was doing her homework. And we kept, she came out and had dinner with us. And we were like, watch a movie. And she did watch a movie. But I was like, so clearly you're not able to handle and manage your schedule, but you clearly don't want me managing it. So what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? That's how I feel.
I do. I mean, I would like, you never want to talk about it in the time when she's annoyed. And it's like that at that age, they're annoyed a lot. But I mean, I would literally like put that to her, like, I'm doing my best here to try to give you more and more and more and more, but I don't know how. I mean, sometimes help me. Like, how do I do this better? Like, how do I do this and you have a perfectly good example of it. Actually, you don't want to be like, I told you so, but like, there are a lot of those where you're just, you're trying. And sometimes, you are smart about things.
Right.
but you don't want to be working harder than she's working at managing her own life, right? So it's like you got to enlist her to like help, you're trying to back off, but she's going to have to help you figure out how to do it better. And so that you're not, otherwise you're just going to do it your way and she's going to always be mad.
Well, that's the hard part is I feel like with both my kids, actually, I have these conversations of how can we give you your control and your freedom and your choices. But in that, I have to see, like with Isla, I was like, here's what I need. I need you to have B's in your classes. If you have B's in your classes, at least a B or an A, you won't hear from me. If it drops into a C, I'm going to be on you. So it's up to you. You just keep yourself in a B. For her, that a B is awesome because this is really the first year she's independently been to school, like without my help for the most part. Since probably about 3 weeks ago, I completely withdrew. It took her a long time to get up and running, which I expected because she's dyslexic. So she needed a lot of scaffolding in the beginning. But now I've like taken the pieces of scaffolding away and I've been like, here's the parameter. Got to give me a B, A or B, and you won't hear from me. But once it drops below that, I'm going to be all over you. So she has a C in algebra and I'm all over her. And she's like, you need to back off. And I've already set the parameter. I've set the boundary. I've said here, if A plus B equals C, not to use an algebra analogy, but that's kind of what it is. I was like, if you keep a B in algebra, I will not bother you. And then I get so much pushback for exactly the parameter I set.
What does she think about? Does she think a B is not an appropriate? Does she think C's are fine?
She wants me out of her business entirely at all costs for everything.
Even if she failed everything?
Yep. It's her business, not my business. But it is my business. And I keep saying this. But the problem is you are still a child. You are 14 and I am an adult. And it is my job to make sure that you are taken care of in a certain way. You need to be learning and progressing, and that a B is our minimum in our family. That's our value system. Some people are AP classes, all A's. That's not what I'm asking. I'm just asking for a B average. That's it. And if you get into a C, then I mean, something's not working. You're not understanding something. So then that's a building block for 11th grade. So then I'm concerned now about 11th grade. So I've explained all of this to her. And she's like, get out! Every time, get out of my room! But I'm like, wait, I thought I was a really good mom. What's happening? It's falling apart here. I'm trying to give you your freedom, but you're not. I feel like they're not respecting that. Does that make sense? That's really what I feel like, is that they're not respecting where I am giving them, or I should say we. Bert is on the same page too. When we're giving them an inch and they go, fuck your inch. Mm-hmm. I want the whole mile. And you go, well, you can't have a mile because you live under my house and you eat my food and I pay your tuition. But they don't seem to get it. Can I hit them? Last night, Bert was like, I think we should just start hitting them. I was like, maybe. Maybe. I was paddled in sorority. I was hit all my childhood. Maybe we should just start hitting them. I'm at a loss. No advice?
I think that you're in a position where your options are like, keep verbalizing it and keep your boundaries, because it sounds like you're setting your boundaries, or, you can lower your standards and let them sink or swim, but that's not what you want to do. So then you're clear about what you want to do. Like, you have your boundaries. And so I would just keep verbalizing it and keep showing them ways they can earn more independence,
Showing them ways they can earn more independence. Okay. All right. So maybe I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit lately since the pandemic, like the idiots are running the asylum. That's what I feel like in my house. And I think it's a lack of institutionalized structure, meaning school, where I'm not the only principal, teacher, coach, parent. Bert and I when he's home are the only authoritarian figures, really, because the teacher is on a computer. It's a very different ball game. And I feel a bit like, as a parent, it's unfair that I have to wear all of those disciplinary hats. And I feel like, as a child, it's unfair that I have to wear all those disciplinary hats, because then it's very hard to compartmentalize what feels like control to them. Does that make sense? Clean your room comes from the same voice as do your homework, comes from the same voice as have you logged in to your Zoom class, same voice as why don't you take the dogs for a walk so you get some exercise, which is PE, same as, see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's all coming from me.
Yeah.
I feel like they have gone off the rails a little bit. And I've allowed them to, since it's my house, because of the situation that we're in. I mean, they're staying up very late. And as much as I take electronics and shut the light out, they're still staying up, drawing. I'm like, what do you not understand about go to sleep? I mean, and they're not complying with anything. And I wonder, and that's not who they are typically. So I just wonder, in this specialized moment in history, if that is a little bit of an unraveling,
Well, I definitely agree with you that the whole online thing is really, it's problematic in terms of motivation for these kids. It is like I think there's just across the board. It is really hard to stay motivated when it's just staring at these screens all day.
Yeah.
And I agree with you too, that like for you being the voice of all discipline and all structure and all annoying things, like do your homework, log into your class, clean your room, that's no fun for you. And I think that's happening across the board right now too.
Right.
And then you're not getting a break. It's like one thing if that's your voice in the morning and after school, but it's all day long now.
Right. They don't
when there's like
either.
What?
They don't get a break either from me.
But what are their goals, like their longer term goals? Because I feel like right now it's so easy for people to just be like lost in this sort of unstructured, weird time warp. But the goals of, whatever, maybe it isn't college, maybe it's being a mute, whatever it is, like what are those for them? Like what do they want to be?
Well, interesting you say that. As a Girl Scout troop leader, I am Georgia's troop leader, and Georgia is in a different level. And we started this badge called College Knowledge. And it's a fascinating badge. I'm kind of cheating. I'm doing some of what they say. But I thought that there was a more valid way to kind of skin that rabbit. And one of the things that I did in our meeting last Sunday was to ask all the girls, I have 4 girls at her level, the why for college. Why are you going to college? Not just where, but why. And not just why because I want to be an accountant. No, not that. Why do you want to go into Boulder instead of San Diego? What do you want out of your college experience that has nothing to do with education? What's the why? And George's why was, I think I'm going to take a gap year. And I went, why? She said, I just want to work. I said, why? She said, I just want my freedom. And I was like, that's what's going on all over my house with her, is she just feels trapped, I think. And now she doesn't even want to think about going to college out of high school. So I was like, what? I mean, I don't need her to go to college, but she's always said she wanted to be a therapist. So if you're going to be a therapist, you got to go to college. You got to get your master's at least. So I was like, wow, what a shift. And I don't need her to be a therapist. I don't give a shit what she does, as long as she is happy and fulfilled and can grow and build success, whatever that looks like. I mean, success to me, my dad owned his own mechanic shop successfully for 45 years. He was never wealthy, but he was very successful because he had a successful business. So success doesn't have to be, something crazy. Being a nurse for 25 years is super successful. So I'm like, wow, all of a sudden my kid is really lost. I feel like she's really aimless and lost. And the other two, one girl was sick, not with COVID, but was sick that day. And the other two still had very clear path. And Georgia was very much like, I don't know, gap year, work, maybe I'll travel.
And I mean, I think that's a big thing about the schoolwork thing is if it's not connected to a goal, then it's like, ugh, like, no, who wants to do it? So, I mean, and you're not supposed to know when you're 15, but if you aren't connected to the idea that like, I want to keep as many options open because probably the 5 things like therapist or veterinarian or whatever they are all require college, then, but the interesting thing about the gap year thing is like, there really is a place for that. I mean, actually for someone like her, it's like the perfect thing to like, okay, go and figure out and have some experience and realize like, wow, if I want to be able to pay my bills, I mean, I'm not going to want to just have a minimum wage job forever. And I am really smart in this. I mean, but if she's not there yet, but I feel like those conversations really do matter. Otherwise, we're just spinning here and it's not like, why would your kids ever really dig in and engage?
Right.
You know?
Okay. So maybe that is a good thing that I can do now is have a conversation about where you want to be and why school, the why of high school. The why of high school. Why high school? You could drop out and get your GED.
And a lot of people do. And still, there still is like some path. Like, what is it? Do you want to be a personal trainer, or do you want to be like, but there's like something like when you're not going to drop out and just not work. So then it's a lot of conversations in there. And if kids don't, it seems kind of obvious, but it's actually not obvious to them. I think various paths.
I think you're right.
So there's also, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think I'm hopefully I end up somewhere.
You will.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens, guys. I know somebody who dropped out of high school at 15 or 16 intentionally because he was failing something. So, and like wasn't going to fix it. He dropped out, he got his GED. He went to, at like 16, he went to, I believe LA Valley College for 2 years and then transferred, I think, to Columbia.
Wow. And
it was his plan. He is the son of like a hacker. And so he was like, I'm going to hack high school. This is how I'm going to do it. And ended up on an amazing path. And like talking to your kids about those stories, I actually think is really helpful because it puts them in the driver's seat of like all the things you can do. And when you're 15 or 16, you don't know necessarily what it is, but let's take control and leave as many options open as you possibly can. And like really talk about what does it look like? Because that kid was super unique. He did it, but he was super unique and he took control. And he like really went for it. But like, what does it really look like to drop out of high school? Like, you end up working at, like a really low paying job for a long time. It's harder to get into college, all of those things. But I guess like my point is the really authentic conversations that are also exciting, right? Like that's a cool story.
Yeah, it's a great story. I actually have a friend in high school, the same, he didn't go to, but he dropped out of high school, married his girlfriend who was still in high school. They're still married. He's my age, so he's 50. And he wanted to be a mechanic. And he was like, why am I in high school? I just want to own my own shop, just like my dad, right? So that's what he did. And he owns the most successful shop in my hometown. And he's owned it forever. And he did the same thing. He was like, I already know what I want to do. GED, went to technical school. He was already, I think, working when we graduated high school. He had already gotten his technical school certificates and was working a job in what he wanted to do. I think that is a very viable option for a lot of people. That
it's a great path.
Totally, because society says it's not okay to drop out. People don't even consider it. When there's so many kids who, I mean, are you really going to use calculus? Do you really need to go to high school to learn calculus? I mean, I was so many students who said, I don't know when I'm ever going to need algebra. I was like, well, I don't know either. Sometimes you use it in like carpentry and stuff and like, that, but no. She's like, I think I want to go to school in Europe. They don't make you take English or math. And I went, I'm not sure that's entirely
sure that's true. What do you take?
I don't think that's accurate. You just study what you want to learn.
I don't think that's quite accurate, but
I don't either. I said, I think that's technical school.
But actually, that would be a really interesting thing to explore, like the reality of what she thinks she's talking about. Like, because maybe the path, like I know kids who actually went to college in Europe, and it is a bit of a different path. And it can be like, I mean, in some instances, it's way more difficult. In others, it's not. So it would be an interesting thing for her to explore, like, what are the options? Do you have to have good grades? Does it not really matter so much? I mean, just to see.
Right. But the why of high school is a really good conversation to have now. The why. Why are you in high school? And what is your purpose in high school? Is it just to make friends? Because I think the purpose for both my kids may be fully social. I mean, even before the gap year conversation, Georgia was like, I'm just going to go to Valley College because I don't want to worry about college and high school. I just want to enjoy myself. And I was like, okay, totally fine. You can go to Valley. You can ride your bike there from our house, go to college, transfer somewhere to four-year school. I'm totally down with that. I have no problem with that path at all. I think it's actually a pretty smart path because
it's a lot less money. Like it's a
lot less money, and it's a lot less stress. I think the large campus with the big party scene is a lot of stress. And so I was like, I'm all for that path. But yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling lost as a parent right now. I think that's my point of the whole conversation. This whole podcast is I have friends and friends' parents that I'm dealing with that are out of my scope with my kid. And I don't know if I'm handling it well. And I don't know if she's handling it well. And I don't think Bert's handling it well. I don't think Bert's handling it very, very well.
But if you have the conversation about like, really, what is she really honestly, like in a good moment where you guys are like in your best, just bonding moment with each other, what exactly does it look like? What does she want you to do? Literally be completely hands-on? I mean, like for real, what does it look like? And is that realistic? I mean, it would be interesting for her to see because you probably have stories in your life of those parents who did that and what ended up happening with those kids. I mean, I do, from my childhood, but she doesn't know that. I mean, so just, you don't have to agree with each other, but to have a conversation like really about like, what is it? Like you're doing your best here. And what she's asking of you, if she really paints the picture, the full picture of what she's asking you to do, which is basically pay for everything.
Yeah.
And feed her and make her meals, but what, like not just
have
speak
no
when
say.
Spoken to? Like,
yeah, speak when spoken to. I need a t-shirt that says that because that is my entire life in this house. I can speak only when spoken to. 2 days ago, I said, I think I may be Cinderella. Suddenly, I am Cinderella. I am swabbing the deck. I'm like the scullery maid, and everybody looks at me like I smell bad. I mean, I have to ask for dirty laundry 4 times to the point where I go, hey, I'm asking to do a chore for you. So
what if you went on strike? What if you actually went on strike or went to a spa for a week? I mean, I know the house would burn down.
They would care. I'd come back and this house would be completely infested with rats. You should see this room right here where I go, I'm fucking out. I'm out of this room. You should see this room. And it will not be handled. He will let mold grow and infest in this room until it takes over the whole space. And I feel like my kids are the same way, even though they've always had chores. They've always had chores. And now something has shifted. And I feel like the idiots are running the asylum entirely in my house, where I have no control over anything. And anytime I say something, it is either a massive offense that I have said that or completely disregarded. It's never like, oh, that's fair. She is asking to do my laundry. She has asked me 3 times.
And if you just didn't do it, like what would be the end game of that? If you just stopped doing their laundry?
I have. I have not done their laundry, and it piles up and piles up and piles up. And then they'll come and go, are you doing laundry tomorrow? And I'll say, yes, I do laundry on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Okay, well, I'll bring you my laundry. And then it will show up that day, and it's fucking 14 loads. where I'm like, oh, then I should make them do the laundry themselves. But they have so much schoolwork that I feel bad about that, right? They have so much schoolwork. This is different. This is not like when they go to school. It's not compartmentalized. It seems like it's a lot more work. Maybe it's because I didn't see them at school, but.
Okay. So I want to say something about, like, this is an epiphany that I had recently, which is that every time I let my kids like trample on my boundaries that way, right? Because I think we all do it. Like, I think this is a huge thing. This is a huge thing.
I do
Every time I let them do that, I'm communicating to them that it's okay to be in a relationship where people cross boundaries. And so like having that awareness of, I don't want my kids to think it's okay to treat their future friends or partners this way. And I sure as hell don't want them to think it's okay for them to be treated that way.
Right.
It gave me a lot more permission and confidence to like, just go, this is my boundary and I'm done. Like, that's what it is. I'm holding it firm. We're just going to have to throw all these clothes away. Like whatever, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not having this in my house. I've communicated I'm not having it in my house, and I'm actually not going to have it in my house.
Right. Okay. So maybe I just say, you start doing your own laundry. Do it at your pace, whenever you want it, any day of the week you want. You do your own.
I mean, or maybe you give them a chance to see that you actually mean a boundary by saying, listen, I've said to you, I do laundry on Wednesdays and Saturdays. If you have your laundry to me on Wednesdays when I'm doing it, I'll do it. I mean, you maybe not, but like just to show them. And if they don't like normal, then you're like, I communicated that to do. Now you're on your own with your laundry.
Right.
And like, I'm not doing all of your laundry on Saturday because Wednesday you didn't. Like, if you didn't bring it to me on Wednesday, you can bring me half of it on Saturday. Yeah. But like, I'm not doing that.
Right. Yeah, I did laundry. I did laundry for like a full like 14 hours.
God, I hate laundry and dishes.
Because the tour bus showed up and vomited laundry. And then both my kids hadn't brought me their laundry that week. And then I was like, oh my God, I have so much laundry. I just kept folding and folding and folding. I was like, oh my God, I can't do it anymore.
I don't know why. I mean, laundry and dishes are just goddamn out of control. It's out of control.
Yeah.
Burn it. All of it.
Yeah.
But also, Leanne, aren't there also, just in terms of the grades, like, aren't there also, like when you think about the rights, responsibilities, privileges thing we've talked about, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you think about, like you're saying in your household, you have a responsibility to make B's. And if you don't, then, whatever. And so I know that, you being on it is one, but aren't there other privileges that would like be motivating enough to make it so that you don't have to be the one who's driving the academic thing when it goes below a B, but like she is motivated enough by the fact that, she's going to lose her privileges.
Right.
If she doesn't, and does she not believe that she will actually fail? Like, does she believe she'll be able to pull it out? Or like, are you worried that it'll just spiral and she'll literally just fail?
My past experience with Isla is that all of a sudden there is an undoable amount of work. So then she can't, it's impossible to complete because one thing leads to 4 things, leads to 8 things, and all of a sudden she can't get it done. So whereas if she would just do it as it unfolded, she'd be fine. So that seems to be her pattern, is that she'll push it all till Sunday and then have a 14-hour day Sunday and is exhausted. And then she's so exhausted, she starts the week at a deficit. So she pushes things because she's at a deficit. And now we've got another 14-hour. I've talked to her about this ad fucking nauseum. And she does that with putting away her laundry. That's the way she operates. She's going to wait. She's going to take the path of least resistance and wait till the last minute. And then it is almost insurmountable. This is what her daddy does too.
Impossible deadlines.
If you could see this room, you would go, I get it. Like he's going to wait until he actually can't function in this room and then he'll clean it up. but it has to get to where he can't function. And she is exactly the same. It has to be where she has to turn those in or she's going to fail. And then she can't possibly do them all. So you go, girlfriend, I don't know how else I can try and help you figure out how to manage that better. When she doesn't want my help with it, rejects all help I've tried to give her. She might be a little stubborn. She's so stubborn that she thinks she's autistic.
Like she's
not autistic, but she's like, she was watching some show and they were talking about willfulness and stubbornness. She went, I think I might be autistic. I was like, you're not autistic. You're just really stubborn. You don't have to have one for the other. You can just be stubborn. And you are really stubborn.
That's fantastic.
I think I might be autistic. She actually went online and took an autistic test. And she
I took it too recently. I did.
What'd you score?
I scored at the very, very top of what you can be right before you're a little bit autistic. I mean, it's a very offensive quiz.
I'm sure.
You can't take it online. And like,
right.
The concept was horrifying. I was horrified that I did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took that. I think it must have been going around.
Yeah, I think it was.
Too, yeah.
I think it was. What was interesting is she and her sister scored within 1 point of each other, and they were in the teens. They were like 13 and 14. And I think the you are autistic is when you pass like 30 or something.
I got a 29. That's funny because 29 was the number I got. Yeah.
Oh, she was like, oh, thank God. And my brain, I'm going, because that's such an accurate test.
Right.
We really should hitch our wagon up to that test. Buddy. That's what you hit your wagon.
It's like when people take online IQ tests and then go around, they're like, my IQ was I'm like, you took it off BuzzFeed.
Right? Anyway. I don't know. I feel like we've been a little all over the place in this podcast. So how can I be a better parent? Do you guys want to trade? Anybody want 2 teenage daughters and a husband that doesn't clean up after himself or about just trade it all out for me and then give it back to me? That'd be awesome.
No, I'm good. I'm good
too.
Kristen's already done the teenager.
I have a 15-year-old girl still.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you had 15-year-old. But Jocelyn, you're in the sweet spot.
A little bit. I am. I mean, look, there are things that are just like really, really stressful with whatever age it is.
Yeah.
Like I remember feeling this amount of stress when they were tiny. And now I look back on it and I'm like, what was I even worried about? Like, what was that concern even about? Yeah. And so I try to remember that, like, this is just a phase.
That's a really good perspective.
Just a phase. Like, you look back at things that you worried about when Georgia was 8 or 6, and it's not even on your radar. And if you heard me worrying about those things, you would be like, oh, it's just going to go away.
It's
right?
True. Yes, that's true. And a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about with her being a teenager, I'm not actually that worried about. I feel like I'm good at holding 2 feelings at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this one feeling that goes, you should pay attention to this. Is this a problem? What's going on here? Why is this happening? Is this really broken? And then there's this other part that goes, she's just a teenager. Like I was so much worse as a teenager in every way, in disrespect, in not being organized. My room was a disaster. As soon as I got my car, I was never home. And I lied constantly to my dad. And so, I have this piece going, she's really actually pretty good. And then this other piece that goes, but is she? I don't know. It's hard to.
So I would just keep asking her that. I would just keep literally sharing all that. Everything that's in your head, share it with her about that. It's like you want to believe that she is, but like she needs to help you know.
Right.
Like Jocelyn said, like there's certain ways I'm going to know that you're good.
Right.
Like help me know. And I was also thinking about the Isla thing, with Isla, because she just has that interesting pattern, like you were saying, like Bert, of like waiting till it's almost impossible. And also dyslexia. Where where does she feel empowered and strong and really good? Like, what are the activities in her life that she really shines at doing?
Art. She's really, this sounds dorky, but she's really good at Girl Scouts. Like everything we do, she's good at group activities. That's the hard part about school. She excels in a group setting. So
see, this is where I feel like the why conversation, like the future path conversation, is even more important because she's stuck in the sucky education system that just happens to be all about the things that are not her strengths. Yes. It's not her fault, right? But it just sucks. That's the way we set it up. But like having the conversation about there are some really fantastic things that are going to be perfectly suited to her actually in the real world, even though she feels like nothing is right now, probably, you know? And so, I mean, I feel like having that conversation is even more important to be like, so what do you do? Maybe her path is she literally doesn't have to care about academics. Probably not. But maybe there's like, you know what I mean? Of just like taking those things that are her strengths and even the ones that are her weaknesses and thinking like, this is the way to aim yourself, right? That would feel fun and make it worth making the B's now.
Right. You know? Interesting. I wonder I've tried to, if we just fucking weren't stuck at home, I think she'd be fine. Because I was like, join a club. They still have clubs on Zoom. And she's like, I cannot do another thing on Zoom. I cannot. But if we were at school, she'd probably be in 3 clubs.
Yeah.
You know, she wants to play softball and you can't play softball if you have C's. So that's a motivator, but I can't offer that as a motivator because they're not playing softball. So, and she can't be in certain clubs if she doesn't keep her grades up, but I can't get her to join the club because of Zoom. I think a lot of what I'm talking about, a lot of my parenting problems right now are because of this pandemic. I think if the pandemic would go away, it would straighten out so many things for everybody, obviously. But a lot of this stuff, I think, would be alleviated if they had regular social interaction with their peers in person, you know, and a live in-person class with their teacher. So they had other authority figures besides me and Bert that to have to manage. And then they go home and go, Mom and Dad aren't so bad. But, you know, if Mom and Dad are all the dissension they're getting all day long, then Mom and Dad pretty much suck. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like I suck most of the time.
When you're having to sit there constantly like nagging someone, you don't like yourself.
No.
Like that doesn't feel good ever to anybody.
No, it doesn't.
You know, I mean, I hear you on the school thing. Like that is a drain for a lot of people to be sitting in front of a computer all day long. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I just wonder if there's other, like, are there things that you can do as a family to kind of change that path a little bit? Because that's a problem. Like sitting on Zoom for 8 to 3 for a lot of kids is a problem. Is there any other path? That's the only path right now?
Yeah. I mean, in their school. Yeah. The only thing is Fridays they learn independently. So I've been every other week, we've been going somewhere. So like this coming up soon, we're going to go to San Diego and just leave and let them do school once we get there and just kind of get out of this environment. I've been doing that regularly, probably every 2 to 3 weeks. And that seems to help a lot. We seem to get really reconnected when that happens. And then after we're back, we're reconnected for several days. And then all of a sudden it starts falling back into like, and then we go out of town again, we get reconnected. So I've been trying to do that. We go in ebbs and flows of family dog walks and we'll do it for a while and then something will happen and get us off the rhythm. And then we start walking dogs independently. And the family dog walks are a blast, but I try to get them out to walk the dogs every day because I'm like, at least they're outside and they're with the dog. And, you know, I try to get that done every day. What did you have something else in mind? Like,
no, I didn't know what it was. I think we're all like struggling with, okay, what does this look like? And what actually works for my family? Because there are some things that like, it works for some kids, but doesn't for other kids. And so I just walked away from some of it,
Like
so
what?
I was just curious. We're not doing traditional school.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting that, there's that, but then I know a family that pulled their kid and they're, they have a tutor 2 hours a day. Just there's all sorts of things going on like that. And
They have a tutor 2 hours a day to do all their school.
That's it. Yep.
Wow.
Because think about how little kids are learning right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy. I know. I took us a little bit off track with that, but I was just curious because I do think that's a valid issue, having to sit in front of a computer from 8 to 3 and something that isn't your thing.
Right. Sucks.
It's awful.
Yeah. Yeah. Isla in particular's full motivation for school is social, to make friends, hang out with people. That's it. She didn't care about anything she's learning.
But does she ever, even in her dreams, think about doing something artistic for her, in the future? Or
I don't know. She's in a really weird spot too since COVID happened, where she's gotten very protective and secretive about what she likes. Where she won't even tell us what food she likes, or we'll say, I know pizza's your favorite food. No, it's not. Okay, it has been since you were 2, but okay. Then what's your favorite food? I don't have one.
I think there's a big thing about not having privacy, not having space. I mean, I just think it's just that, we naturally, but especially that age, they just want some privacy.
Yeah, they want
in their heads and their space and their,
I get it. And I totally get it. I remember not wanting anybody in my business either. And that I'm okay with that. I don't need to be in their business. I just need to make sure they're healthy and happy and moving forward. I just don't want them unhealthy, unhappy, and stuck. And sometimes those things, like you say all the time, those negative emotions are not something to be afraid of. I think as long as you're not stuck in them.
Right.
Once you get stuck in them, then that's a problem. So you should have them, experience them, and have them help you move through something, right?
Exactly. Figure out what you need. What are they telling you about what would be better, how to take care of yourself, what you need? Right.
I think I may need to re-up my parenting. I think I may need to straighten myself out a little bit. I think so. Because, I think so. What do you think? You think I need to straighten myself out a little bit?
I want you to say more about what you're going to do.
Oh.
Well, I think the boundary thing, we've talked about that with me before, is I have a problem with boundaries regarding me. I don't so much have a problem with boundaries regarding other things, but with my time, like with the laundry, I do have a problem. And, Bert says this to me a lot. I grew up with a parent who didn't have boundaries in a different way, right? And stuff like the laundry was up to me. So I think I came into being a parent going, I'm going to do those things that I wanted done for me that were never done, So let me do for them what I wanted. But sometimes I may overdo it. And maybe that's not about them. Maybe that's about me. Right. Because doing for them is what I needed. Mm-hmm. And they may not even need it.
The other thing that you're up against that maybe we've talked about, but maybe not, and I think it's common, is that you're really capable. Right. So it's easy. When you're a capable person and you can get a lot of shit done and you can get a lot of shit done, then it's it's just easier to do it.
Yes.
But that's only true in the short term. Right?
Yes.
That's not really true in the long term. And I mean, I think about it looking back on when my kids were teeny tiny and it was just easier to clean up their mess. Good God, the pain of standing there trying to get a 2-year-old to put their dish on the counter. You're like, Jesus, just give it to me. Yeah. But if I had done that then, how different would things be now?
Right.
If that repetition was really there. And so I try to remember that because I can also I can knock things off of a list. Kristin likes that about me. And I also think
that makes me feel so inadequate though, because she's so fast.
Yes.
I mean, I can get so much done in a day that it's fuck it, just give it to me and I'll do it. But then in the long run, it pisses me off.
Yes. You just described me to the letter. I mean, before this podcast, right? I got up this morning, put in a load of laundry, unloaded and loaded the dishwasher, took the dog to the vet, called the refrigerator repair guy, sent a text message to my contractor at the other house and my security company at my other house, worked out, and then came on this podcast all in like 1 hour.
Yeah.
And because it's easier for me to plow through it than to wait for someone else to do it at their.
So weren't we having one of the last couple times, were we talking specifically about the needs skill that like the worksheet, because what I was thinking before you just did that whole list, I was thinking, what a fantastic conversation to have with your kids, like specifically about your need to do laundry for your children, because that was a need that you had when a child, versus like now you realize that they may need freedom from you nagging them about laundry more than they need you to do their laundry. And like having that conversation about needs and relationships is like the most important conversation you could ever have for teaching people how to have good relationships. But then you went on to make that whole list of like the 9 things that you did, many of which were other people's needs you were taking care of. Right. And so I just think I always think getting things on a piece of paper and being like, okay, here is the list of things that I do. And I'm realizing that a lot of them are needs I'm trying to meet for you. I'm trying to do your laundry. I'm trying to cook your dinner. I'm trying to do your homework. I'm trying to do that. And I'm realizing that I really have a need for to feel respected by you, which I can't really do anything about that except for eliminate the places where you're mad at me and give myself some more time to go, whatever. And like when they see it on a piece of paper, it's like, yeah, oh, wow. Okay. These needs you don't have to do for me. It just sounds so weird, but I swear when you put it on a piece of paper, it just makes it like this concrete thing. And it's like, Mom has 30 things on her list and we have 1.
Yeah.
That is very, very good advice. I think maybe that is a great place to start off a good conversation about me feeling, because really I really do feel like Cinderella lately, where I am the last person on this list for every single subject, for schoolwork, for housework, for friendship, for whatever, for spending time together, for walking the dogs. I am literally the last person on the list. I mean, I even took them on this great trip and they said thank you. But I was like, I got the attitude right away. I was like, listen, it takes a lot to take you on a trip. It's not, I think I deserve more than like 5 seconds of, yeah, you're a really great mom. I think maybe deserve a little bit more than that. I don't need a lot.
The slippery slope, though, the problem is, which I know you know this, but when we do too much for our kids or our spouses or whatever, which I do also, it's not really their fault. You know what I mean? It's like, and of course, like, what are they going to be like? No, don't do my laundry. Don't cook me dinner. But of course, they're kids too. So they're going to be like, they're not even going to realize how great they have it.
Right.
So it's like, we got to remember that it's like, you're going in there not being mad. You're going in there and being like, I realize that I have created something that feels out of balance to me. And I'm going to try to fix it in a way that feels good to everyone. But you're not going to be, you're going to put yourself closer to the top of the list.
Got it.
Because no one else will if you don't. They just won't.
Really?
I mean, they will in terms of love, but not in the chore list, not in the...
Really? I hadn't noticed that in my house. Everyone's just dying to scrub the toilet. I went in the girls' room the other day and I was like, I can smell your toilet from the hallway. Would someone please scrub the toilet? And Ida goes, oh yeah, I was just in there looking for the comment. I couldn't find it. It was freaking where it always is. She was not looking for it. She was blind. And I was like, it's right there. She's like, oh yeah, I'll do it a little later. And I'm like, no, seriously, please scrub the toilet because it's really smelly. Oh yeah. Didn't scrub the toilet. Came back in there later. Hey, how about you scrub that toilet? Remember the toilet? Yeah. I'll be right there. I'm going to go do it now.
I mean, listen, you got to get the rights, responsibilities, and privileges. Do you have that worksheet?
I think I do. It's in your portal, right?
It's definitely on our website. Yeah. Okay. But I'll send it to you too. Because I think like having that list hanging up too,
Yeah.
Or one thing to like say it and your kids are like, I know, Mom got a big list of things to do. But to actually have it like written out and hanging up somewhere.
Right.
Like, here's George's responsibilities. Here's Isla's. Here's Leanne's. Here's Bert's.
Right.
They can see you. They can see that you're like, definitely doing the things that are on your list.
Right. I can't wait to see what Bert's responsibilities are. To eat 3 bags of chips at 11 p.m. Check. To leave my room a disgusting pigsty. Check. Great responsibilities. No, I'm interested to see what he thinks his responsibilities are. Because we had this, we have a couple families, like I said before, that we all kind of bubble together. So we had a little outdoor movie night at our new house because it's outdoors and we felt like that was really safe. But it takes a lot to get that ready. You have to like put the screen together, and at our new house, we don't have anything. It's still under construction. We have a toilet, but no sink. So you have to come up with a way for people to wash their hands. And it was a lot of work. So Bert got up that morning. He's like, I'm totally yours. I'm going to help you all day. Tell me what you need. And I was like, awesome. So here's what I need. And you put the screen together, bring some coolers, blah, 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 blah. And I already had the truck loaded. I was like, just come over, help me unload, and we'll get started. Unload the truck. And he's like this, looking around. And he goes, this is a lot of work. And I went, yeah, it's a lot of work to get this done. That's why all week I've been saying, this party, this is going to be a lot of work. He's like, yeah, I think I'm going to need to go work out. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, I'm going to need to go work out before if I don't work out, I'm going to feel really shitty about myself for the whole day. So I tell you what, I'm going to leave you here and I'm going to go work out. And you just let me know when you need some help and I'll come back and help you. And I was like, well, I would like to work out too. And he was like, well, fine. Then I'll stay here and do this. And I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'll stay here and you go work out. And I was like, never mind. You go work out because I don't want to have to deal with that person all day. So go work out and I'll call you when I need you. So I call and I go, I need a couple things. And he's like, yeah, I'm still on the treadmill. I'm like, it's 4 hours later. You've been working out for 4 hours? Well, I got a little distracted. I made some quesadillas for the girls and then I had to clean the kitchen. I had to clean the kitchen. And I was like, okay, so basically I'm doing this entire thing by myself. That's really what it is. I came home and all 3 of these suckers are on the couch in the recliner watching Scream. And I was like, I cannot believe that and I said to them, I've been busting my ass all day for a party for you people. So could you please clean this house up before we leave for this party and help me get all this stuff in the car? And they did. But I was like, wow. And then later that night, Bert was like, I was so helpful. I was like, you did nothing. You drove me there and dropped me off. That's how you were helpful. But he really thought he was helpful because he came home and made quesadillas for the kids and cleaned up after himself. He really thought that was helpful.
And doesn't the word helpful just kind of piss you off too?
Yes.
Like, it really pisses me off where I'm like, how about you just do it? Don't be helpful. Just be the one. I'll help you. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that. But he really, from his soul, believed that he was a 50-50 partner in that day. And he might have been 10% partner because he did pick up a heavy cooler and he did unload a truck and he did drop me off with a water bottle. Peace out. Have a good day. So I go, I don't really know how to fix that way of thinking either, because then if I say, okay, let me make a list of what I did today, and you make a list of what you did today, and we'll compare notes, he would find that very patronizing.
Would he not even have the party, though, if he had to actually do all the work? Would he have it? Would he even do the thing? Yeah.
No. He was like, cancel it. It's too much work. Don't do it. But I'm like, but it's for your kids. It's for our kids. And I'm happy to do it, but it would be nice to have some help, and you're saying, I'm yours today. You got me all day, until he got there and went, wow, that's a lot to do. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go work out. I'll see you after. I'll meet you at the party. I think that's been something that's been going on with us for a long time. But the imbalance of what he really believes he helped me. Like, not even bullshitting, not even trying to make believe. He really believes he was a team player. So I have a hard time getting him to see the other side of that coin. And I think that's the same for my kids. That's been their example, as they've watched dad do that and watched me just go, well, fuck it, I'll just do it myself. Is it's too much trouble to get in an argument with him about, I did 5 things, you did 3, which is what it comes down to in his brain.
So wait, you think your kids have actually adopted that same kind of attitude?
Yes, I do.
Just with you, though, or with others?
Maybe just with me. Because I know they're really helpful when they go to friends' houses. They're really proactive. Teachers always tell me they're really great. But just with me or with school to do the least for Isla.
Mm-hmm.
So see, I'm the problem.
Well, it's interesting because we just like this week, we were talking about how this is like a whole subject for a webinar is moms and dads, but it does tend to be moms who are like really capable. They're getting stuff done and they're resenting it. Because you are not the only person.
No.
Not at all. And in fact, the more capable you are, the more of a problem it is. Isn't
that interesting? You know what? I'll get emails from this episode saying you're doing a bad job as a mom because you're doing too much for your kids. And that's probably true. That I do too much for my kids in some way.
I don't think it's true that you're a bad mom.
No,
you're far from a bad mom. You're far from a bad mom.
No, I'm not a bad mom, but.
And those people should learn about the good enough mother concept. So before you send Leanne that message, good enough mother, then send her the hate mail.
I get a lot of hate mail, but I do get some mail like, you're not doing that right. Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. The point is like, it's not feeling right to you. Like what matters is it's not feeling good to you. Like if it weren't causing any resentment on your part, or you feeling like Cinderella or whatever, then it's like, whatever. But now it's to the point, it sounds like it's bad enough that you actually want to change your side of it. That's
true. And I don't think it's super healthy for my kids. I think at this point they do need to be more independent or have more responsibility for their privileges. They get a lot of privileges just to get them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're privileged kids. So how do we wrap this up, ladies? I know you have a time crunch. Jocelyn and I do too a little bit. How do we wrap it up? Lock your
okay, I'm going to say this. You're going to there's I know that you're ignoring the needs stuff in resilience-based parenting, but there's some cool stuff coming up that you haven't gotten to yet. Don't ignore it.
No, I have listened to everything except that one.
I know, except the needs one.
Which is so crazy if you think about it.
It's so, what's so funny, Kristin, is that like, I so know Leanne, hopefully this isn't offensive to you because it's not true. What I'm about to say is not true. But like, I so know where you're at because I do it too. And every time that I'm like creating something that really is speaking to me, I'm like, I hope Leanne listens to this one.
You should just tell me. You should just call me or text me and go, I just did one just for you, babe. For you. Hey, here's the good thing about life is that we're all imperfect.
I know.
All have places where we don't know what we're doing or we don't know what we're doing as well as we do in other places. We all have strengths and weaknesses. I am no exception for sure. And that's one of my big Achilles heels is the needs and somewhat the boundaries because, I do have boundaries, but some of them are very relaxed. And
so the good news about this is that you can experiment just with little teeny intentional things. This is not an aircraft carrier that is going to take a long time to turn around. If you change your side of the dance, even just one little thing at a time, one little need and boundary at a time, it will shift everything. It just will. It doesn't have to be any bigger than just deciding, you know what, this one I can do. I can set this one boundary and keep it and then see what happens.
You know, I'm really glad you said that, because I am what my therapist calls a fire hoser. I turn on the hose and go, I get it all done. And sometimes if I feel like I can't do that, I feel like it can't be done.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad you said that, not just for me, but for other people who probably feel things that I feel, that can see that you can just do one little bitty intention, one little bitty boundary, one little bitty need, and build it on top of each other until it changes. Yeah. That's really good. I'm glad you said that. Thank you very much.
Because it's funny that it comes up, because the pillar that you skipped, the assignment is to set a small boundary. And here's the other thing, Leanne. So I keep trying to tell this story in like our content, and Kristin keeps cutting it out. So Kristin, I apologize. Kristen's gonna have to.
You know what story it is?
Kristen's gonna have to.
I'm like, wait.
It's the chewing gum purse story.
Oh, it's the chewing gum.
Kristen's gonna have to like come in and clean up the mess that I'm about to create. Okay. I hate it when people dig through my purse. I hate it. It pisses me off. I don't like it at all. And my kids, one of them in particular, are always getting gum out of my purse. And there was just this day where I was like, why do I keep doing this? Like, why do I keep letting them do this? And it's because it feels like crappy to be irritated by that. Like, it doesn't feel good. And so there's just a day where I was like, no, that's a boundary that I can set. Like, that's a small boundary that I can set, that it's totally acceptable to go, that is my purse. That's my private belongings. I don't think it's appropriate for you to dig in people's purses. End of story. Don't do it. Period. Like, that's a small boundary that you can set. That's how tiny we're talking about. Kristin can come in and clean this up now.
No, I just didn't want to use it as like it was in a place of something that like mattered, and it does seem, right. But I think that's a really great point for that. Like, it doesn't have to be something huge and big, just practice.
Right.
Like deciding like this, I'm going to try to get this need met. I'm going to find some way, to get this need met, or just set this boundary, whatever it is, so that you can be like, give yourself a win.
Yeah. And it matters. Like, it matters that your kids see you doing that, and that they then have permission to go, you know what? Like, I don't have to explain to anybody why I don't like it when people are in my purse. I don't have to justify that. Like, it's my purse. I'm done. And that's something that kids should see their parents doing. Like, I don't have to justify any of my boundaries. Right. Like, I really just don't. And that is one of them that I don't have to apologize for. I don't have to, it's just done. Like, I don't like it. Done.
Right.
Like, it sounds like the laundry one for you almost would be like a pretty easy one, just because it happens every single week. And like, you can give the warning. It's going to be different this week, guys. If you know what I mean? And then, I mean, you get to decide what it is, but there are always lots of chances. That's a good place
to start. Good place to start, that one. And then, that's a good place to start. To just say, if I get it, I'm asking one time. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, you're doing it.
Because think what happens. You just said, I'm asking one time. So if you actually do that, now it's not about the laundry. It's about asking one time.
Right.
Now you mean what you say if you really do that. And the next time it's something else and you're going to say, I'm asking one time. That's why it really matters to start doing it. Because then your word, then any boundary is going to be stronger.
Right.
Makes sense. It will feel good to you. Like, there's going to be a snowball effect because it feels good. Because I have to tell you, like, when I just made that one shift, there were like 5 or 6 things that were all really small, but they were small little irritations, like kids playing with my phone when we're in the car and changing music. Drives me batty. Can't stand it. Like, a bunch of little tiny things like that just all of a sudden I was like, oh, I get to like just say no on this. Like, it's not a fight. It's not like they're not being punished. I'm not mad at them. There's nothing punitive about it. Just like, no, I'm done. And it's like just an act of self-care that feels good.
Right. I hate that too.
But that's an interesting one for you, Leanne, when you think about the laundry, because like there was a lot of stuff wrapped up in that. Like, it wasn't done for you as a kid, and it felt like a deprivation in a way. So and that's why I always think conversations, I mean, you don't have to do the conversation for the boundary, but I just think eventually it's kind of interesting for your kids to like hear, like you may just think it's laundry. Like this had a whole big thing. This made me feel like a good mom.
Yes,
but like now it doesn't.
Yes. My neighbor across the street, Becky, who was my best friend, her mom did everybody's laundry and she had 4 kids and I did my own laundry. And I just thought it was such an expression of love and care that she did everybody's laundry. She stacked them in their own piles. They picked up their piles and took them to their room. And that's what I do. I do everybody's laundry. I stack them in a pile for everybody and they take them and put them away. And I just thought that's Margie, Becky's mom, was one of my most important roadmaps to what a loving mom was. And that was one of the things that she did. Hello.
Okay, so he's been trying to whisper something to me, and one of the things was, "Can I have candy?" That was one of the things.
What was the answer?
I went, no.
You know that it's not even lunch.
He can't hear you.
Oh, he can't hear. That's right.
Oh, here. What were you coming to ask? So the other day I was on the phone with Kristin, and we're in different time zones and my kids were still sleeping, and he woke up and he came and snuggled next to me and he goes, "You're the best." Aww. But I didn't hear it, and Kristin did.
I heard it.
She's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute." Anyway, you guys didn't hear that, did you?
We did not.
He said, "You're the best mommy. You're the best mom that ever was, and you're way better than any other mommies."
Especially the
That's
one.
not what he said. That's not what he said.
He said, especially the one in the black shirt.
Yeah, he was like, "That woman is like not doing well.
She's off in a ditch. Off in a ditch somewhere.
Somebody needs to come in and help her." No, he asked me if he could play on his iPad.
That's nice. Well, thanks for the chat today, ladies. I learned something about myself. I need to start setting some small boundaries. I like the, I'm going to mess it up. The responsibilities, privileges was the third one.
Rights, responsibilities, and privileges.
I like that a lot. So if you would send that to me,
we will, and we'll put it on for, if any of your viewers want it, we'll put it on McDermottMethod.com/WOTP. We'll put it there too, so that they can grab it. But wait, you can't go quite yet because I have one thing I wanted to say.
Yes.
Before my son came over. You know, you were talking about like Becky. It was Becky's mom, or Becky?
Becky's mom. Yeah.
I think it's like also an interesting conversation to have with your kids. What are the things that you consider an act of love? Like, what are other parents doing that you're like, that's an act of love? Or what do I do that you love?
Yeah, that is a great
thing, right?
Yes.
I mean, not to have it like add to your list of shit to do, but that's a fun conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great conversation because everybody views love differently, you know? And what I feel is love is very different than what Bert feels is love. So that is a really good conversation to have because I did look around my childhood looking for love. And there were a few women who showed me how to do that, you know, not my mom, but there were other women in my life, my dad's second wife and Becky's mom, Margie, and my Aunt Phyllis. And I was like, oh, that's what you do. That's how you do that, you know?
For me, it was picking my kid. Like if you had a parent who could come to school and pick you up at the end of the day, like that was a big deal. And so it's always like I have a little bit of panic when I can't pick my kids up because I like that matters so much to me, but I don't know if they even give a crap. Like for a long time, they were like, we want to stay in aftercare at school. Like it's fun. There's kids to play with. Well, that's what we want to do. And so what I was like, you know, being there right at 3 wasn't translating to them the way that it was to me.
I had that too. I walked home from school every day. I was a latchkey kid, like a lot of kids in the 80s, 70s and 80s. So, I was the same way. I was there every day. And then one day Isla was like, I think I'm going to start walking home. I was like, that's fine. But then inside I was like,
I know. I mean, man, those kids when I was growing up, if they had a parent to pick them up from school, that was like, first of all, you have to be the richest family in the world. Right? Like, there's no way. I grew up with a single parent, so she was working all the time.
Same here.
This is so funny that this is happening because if you saw me just get distracted, it's because my daughter's at school and my husband's not there. And she's like, is anyone coming to get me? I'm like,
oh my God.
You better go. Oh, yeah. We'll wrap it up.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. Well, thank you, ladies. And we'll do our day drinking podcast another time.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay.
Right, thanks.
Have a great day.
You too.
Guys.
Bye.